What is the scariest thing to happen to you when you've been home alone? The lights turned off all at once while I was in the kitchen. It was pitch black. I heard the door open. For some reason, instead of thinking power outage, my brain went to someone has cut the power and is coming to kill me. I grabbed the landline, the knife, and was crouched behind the kitchen counter, hearing steps come through the house, trying to breathe as quietly as possible. Then I hear my mom go, "Hello? Anyone home?" The power went out by chance at the exact moment she came in the door. That would have been an awkward hospital trip. My girlfriend and I both travel a lot for work, pre-COVID, so it's not unusual for only one of us to be home on any given week. Last fall she was in San Francisco and I was home alone for a few days. We live in an apartment on the top floor of a building. Above us is a roof with a deck available to everyone. Middle of the night I get up to use the bathroom, and on the walk back to bed I look over to the study. There's a sliding door in the study leading to a balcony. I immediately stop dead in my tracks. I see the outline of a person standing on my balcony, facing me. I run over, hit the lights, grab a knife from the knife block and start dialing 911. The person is a kid, no more than 16. He sees me hit the lights, grab a knife and my phone, and he immediately grabs the railing on my balcony and flings himself over. I run over, assuming I just watched someone kill themselves, only to see him safe and sound on the balcony below me. He then hurdles off that balcony. He's jumping from floor to floor. He hits the parking lot in the back of our building safely and then sprints off. Cops finally come and break up a party on the roof. Turns out he was just a drunk friend of someone on the second floor and got dared to do it. Also, shout out to my dog for being asleep 15 feet from the balcony and not doing anything. Also shout out to my dog for being asleep 15 feet from the balcony and not doing anything. I have cameras at the entrances to my house. About 10 years ago people broke into the house while we weren't home. When I reviewed the recordings, you see the back door get blasted open by a sledgehammer. Then you see my dog run up, tail wagging. The burglars started petting him. He brought them his favorite toy. Then they moved off camera. I then saw his favorite toy fly past the camera, and then off camera. Then I saw my dog run for it. He played fetch with them. The last thing they did before they left the house was struggle to close the door. While pushing my dog back in the house, he still wanted to play. He wasn't a guard dog though, he loved everybody, he was really awesome with my daughter, and that's what counts. I was in my basement where the computer was playing some game, probably RuneScape, and heard someone pull into the driveway, naturally assuming it was my mother who was coming home from work. I heard the screen door open, but when no one opened the lock on the actual door, I started to go upstairs and I saw a pair of legs go by the window. While the basement was underground, there was about a foot that popped up above ground level and had 2 windows. I go upstairs and see 2 dudes in my backyard looking at the windows and talking about the door was locked. It was an attempted home robbery. We had been broken into a few times at that point and had everything locked. But 10-year-old me was terrified. Edit, because you guys keep asking, they just left, nothing happened. No Home Alone shit, I did not get killed, I am very much alive. Someone tried to break into my neighbor's house while I was babysitting their kids. I was 15 and I used to babysit for my neighbors down the block. They had a really nice house, 3 floors with a built-in garage under the house that connected to the basement. It was the family's most used entrance of the house and they rarely locked the basement door as long as the garage was closed. They also had the type of security system where any time a door opens you heard beep beep beep. After the parents left one night, I was putting the kids to bed and I heard the beep beep beep. I yelled out, thinking it was the parents coming back for something, but no one answered. The system on the wall kept reading basement door open. I was freaked out, so I called my dad and asked him to come by since he was only a few houses away. When he arrived, He told me to stay in the kitchen while he checked the house, but before he could, we heard the beep 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 again, and then the garage door opened. When we ran to the window to see if the parents were pulling into the driveway, they weren't. Instead, someone in a hoodie was running out of the garage door and into the woods behind the house. My dad ended up calling the cops. I'm still creeped out by it. I was actually at a friend's house when her parents weren't home. We were maybe 10. It was her, my sister, her sisters and me. We decided to go swimming. There had been a rash of burglaries lately, but mostly garages being broke into. Anyway, we were in the pool when we noticed the kitchen light turn on. It was evening. We assumed her parents so looked in the window to do something stupid to get their attention when we realized we do not know the individual in the house. We hid behind the wall of the pool, above ground, terrified until her parents finally came home. It appeared as though he got spooked, as he only ransacked the kitchen and left the garage door wide open when fleeing. When I was around 8 or 9, my mum commuted to a major city about an hour/hour and a half away, so I would bring myself home from school, about 100 meters away, lock the door and watch cartoons or play Neopets until she got home. We lived in apartment blocks, and one day one of the older male people in the apartment lost his wallet, and he figured it must have been me. Keep in mind, I've never stolen anything in my life or had any trouble with the law, and I had no clue what he was talking about. He came and banged on the door so aggressively that I jumped out of my skin, and was belligerent, demanding I open the door. I rang Mum crying, and she jumped on a train to come home, but she was an hour and a half away. She called some friends and they came and got me, and at that stage he had taken a break and gone back to his apartment, but left his dry cleaning there. When Mum got back, she stormed straight to his door and pounded on it like he had done to our door. He came to the door, all shocked, and she demanded to know why he thought it was appropriate to bang on the door for an hour to scare a little girl. He replied that he thought I stole his wallet. Mum asked him if he still thought I did, and he said no, I found it in the car park. She looked like she wanted to kill him, and forced him to apologize. Also, in that same apartment block, there was a hairline fracture on the sliding door that we didn't know about. A strong wind blew and shattered the entire window inwards. I was home alone then too. That was scary as fuck. It was spooky movie night at a friend's and we were 3 movies deep, just finished watching Dark Skies. I was hungry, so I was like, alright, getting my leftovers, so I went downstairs by myself. When I closed the fridge, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye, and when I turned to see what it was, there was a ghostly white, skeletal thing just staring at me from outside the patio, with shimmering hazy lights pulsing behind it. I fucking freaked, dropped my food and run up the stairs nearly in tears, babbling about someone or thing in the backyard. Turns out it was just my own reflection mixed with the lights and steam from the hot tub outside, but I've never been so scared in my life. It was a hot summer and my parents went to a wedding. I had a project to do and it was like 1 a.m. and silent until a random drunk dude crawled in through my window with a bottle and blush face. I was 20 feet away at my desk from the window and we both just stared at each other. He was flustered and said, "Oh sorry there kid, wrong house," and attempts to leave the way he came. He was drunk and dizzy, so I helped him by pushing him out the window. I thoroughly shut it and stared at it for 2 hours until my parents came home. Not sure if this counts. Was working on a farm in northern CA. It was a startup and I was the only person, at nights, on an isolated 650 acres. After dinner, was walking from the lodge to my cabin, 100 yards plus. It's dark, so all I can see is what my flashlight illuminates plus a little on the periphery of the main beam. Anyway, walking back and in the periphery I see red fucking eyes staring at me unblinkingly. I turn the light on it and all I see is a pale white mass behind the still red eyes. I freak, takes a little bit to get me jumpy, but this sure as hell did. Picture a 6'5" 260 pounds man. Now picture him letting out an unbelievably high-pitched scream and straight sprinting into his cabin, 50 yards or so. The next day I was talking to one of the guys that come up to help out during the day, told him what happened, and he about fell over laughing. I think the sincere terror in my voice as I described the pale monster really drove the funny nail home for him. Well, turns out there's such a thing as albino deer, and just so happens one frequents this property. Nobody thought to warn me beforehand. My grandparents paid me to house sit for them and take care of their animals, 2 dogs, 2 goats and like 3 or 4 horses, for 2 weeks. One of the dogs was really clingy, so I closed the door on him when I went to bed one night. I woke up in the middle of the night, but I was too tired to move, but I saw a black figure with a white face standing right beside the bed. It was making this horrific growling noise and leaned into me and pressed down on my chest. It pressed harder and harder, and then I was able to move my fingers, and then I was eventually able to move my body, but after that, I let the dog sleep in the room and I slept with the lights on. That was the first time I experienced sleep paralysis, and thankfully the times after that one weren't freaky. My house came with an alarm that kept track of movement in every room. I set the alarm before bed, but I woke up in the middle of the night because it was alerting me that there was movement going back and forth between my guest bedroom, down the hall, and into my office. My alarm has a robotic speaking voice, so in the dark I'd hear it say, movement guest bedroom, movement second floor hallway, movement office, etc. I assume it was a glitch, and nothing to worry about, but I ended up turning that function off. I also heard human footsteps above me in my attic once, home alone while my wife was out of town. But I posted that one already months ago. Clarification edit, my original phrasing is confusing, so I wanted to clarify. I got up immediately and searched through my entire house. Couldn't find anything, figured it was a glitch, and turned the feature off the next day. I didn't ignore the alarm that night. For me, I was 12 years old and my dad was at his girlfriend's house. I went into my room to take a shower. I always put a chair under the door handle in my room because it didn't have a lock. My grandma loved giving me porcelain dolls, and she decorated my room with shelves that had porcelain dolls on them. All of the dolls were on their shelves before I got into the shower. When I exited my bathroom, one of the porcelain dolls was 10 feet across the room, face down on the ground. This doll must have flown across the room to have landed where it did. Also, the doll was not broken. Needless to say, my grandma was sad that all of the dolls were packed up and put in the attic for safekeeping. There had been a scratching in my ceiling for a while, and my landlady was dragging her feet over having it looked into. One night, around 2 a.m., the scratching became so bad it woke me up from a dead sleep. I tried to reassure myself that whatever it was couldn't really get through to me, and I would be fine until I could call my landlady the next day and really press the issue. Then some debris fell from my ceiling. Whatever was up there had managed to dig a small hole into my room. I screamed, and heard some scurrying away from my approximate location. Grabbed any stuff I needed for the next day, got the fuck out of there, shut the door tight behind me, and slept on the couch. I called my landlady first thing in the morning, and she had someone come while I was at work that day to check it out. A mama raccoon had managed to get her way into the space between the roof and my ceiling and had given birth to a litter of kits. The guy speculated that the kits were getting old enough to start wrestling around, and that was likely what led to the hole in my ceiling. Luckily it was just small, the size of a quarter, so there weren't any angry raccoons hanging out in my room when I got home. They were able to safely trap and release the whole little family, but I still started hunting for new apartments ASAP. I moved into my new place on May 1st. I was probably 9 years old, my sister was 6. We had a babysitter who was 12, so alone in the sense that no adults were around. Jackass that I was, I squirted bug spray on my sister and she chased me in retaliation. I ran through some French glass doors to get away from her. She went for the knob and missed. Her arm went through one of the glass panes. She cut herself so deep, you could see muscle, tendons, and bone. It looked like a shittily cut piece of raw meat, since that's basically what it was. The babysitter held a piece of cloth on my sister's arm until my mom came home, called her right away, and took my sister to the ER. She didn't hit an artery, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it was scary as fuck at the time. Got 60 stitches out of it. When I was 3, I got locked in our garage. I had a play area there, while my sister, 13, was babysitting. She was in the shower and didn't hear me knocking. I used my skate to break open the window and then climbed out of the broken window. Of course I was seriously injured. I stood at the back door bleeding all over the place and crying hysterically. She came downstairs and saw me standing in a pool of blood crying and started screaming. Bonus, our parents were a surgeon and a nurse. She called my mom, who told her to wash me off and cover me with gauze and bandages, and she would take care of it when she got home. My mom came home a couple of hours later and did not take time to the hospital, but got out betadine and stitched me up herself. It was a bunch of stitches. I still have scars. Oh, the 80s. It was about 8:30 at night and I heard the front door open. I called out from my room asking why my mom and dad were home only a half hour after they left for dinner. I almost shit my pants and straight up jumped out of my bedroom window when a random male voice replied, "What? There's somebody in here?" Turns out it was somebody who got hired to check on one of our neighbor's dog when they were on vacation, and he got the wrong house address, but the raw fear that gripped me when I heard his voice still gives me nightmares. I was chillin' in my bed with my dog watching TV and I hear a door shut downstairs. I look out the window of my sister's room cause she had a view of the garage, but the garage was empty. I grabbed a pocket knife and crept downstairs. I searched the basement as well as everywhere on the ground floor and found nothing. Went back to my room on edge for the next couple of hours until my family got home. Still don't know what happened, and it couldn't have been wind cause it was winter, so we had all the windows closed. Not that scary, but a door closing when you're home alone and not even 12 is a little spooky. This happened many years ago when I was but a youngster. In my suburb there had recently been a spate of break-and-enters. Where I live, they tend to happen suburb by suburb, like, one suburb will get hit a bunch then there'll be nothing for a while. My family had gone away for the weekend, but I had stayed home because I had work. I was up at midnight watching a James Bond movie, Live and Let Die for those playing at home, with all the lights in the house turned off, and I heard a really sudden and strange thud from my kitchen/living area. I instantly knew it was a weird noise. Nothing in the house made any noises like that, so it was immediately suspicious. Just as I was about to get up to go and check it out, I heard it again. That's when I realized it was actually the thudding of the thick glass sliding door from the kitchen to the outdoor patio. As I mentioned, all the lights are off, so I'm making my way through the house turning lights on. When I reached the light switch to turn on the patio light, I hit all of the lights at once, including the light at my front door, which is visible from where I'm now standing. We had those glass panels next to the front door, which I could now also see out of since the light was on. There was nobody at the patio area at this time, but through the glass panels at the front door I saw someone sprint past and out of the yard. Even though I couldn't see any detail, it was unmistakable to see that it was a person running past. It later occurred to me that they were most likely kicking the glass patio door to try and smash it and break in, as I later learned that this is apparently one common method of entry during burglaries. I had initially assumed they were hitting it with something, but a boot would explain the deep hollow thud of the noise better than striking it with something. Was pretty spooky at the time, just that sudden realization of that is not a normal noise. Kind of crazy what your intuition knows in moments like that. When I was younger, my mom left me and my little brother home alone while she ran to the store. I was in middle school, so old enough to be left home safely for an hour, and my bro was only 2 years younger. Mom leaves and me and my brother are watching TV in the living room, and we see a bunch of smoke from the big bay window facing the front yard shortly after she leaves. We look, and a car has crashed into the ditch that is next to our driveway. I grab the phone and we go out on the porch. I call 911 and give them my address, then I call my grandma and tell her what happened. Cops and the whole emergency entourage gets there. I go talk to the cops. Mind you, we lived on a state route. It's a 2-lane road, so the entire section of road in front of my house is closed off. My mom rounds the corner of the side road to pull onto the STRT and sees a ton of cop cars in our driveway and shutting down the road, 2 fire trucks, at least 2 ambulances, and, as any mom seeing this, freaks out. Note about the road and our house: the road is significantly higher than the ditch, so it is entirely possible to miss the wrecked car. Especially when you know you left your kids home alone. They allow her to park in the neighbor's driveway since ours is currently occupied. And we see her sprinting across the yards. The cops intercept her, she sees that me and my brother are okay and is able to calm down enough to talk to the cops. TL, Dr. Car crashed in our front yard when I was left home alone. Gave mom a heart attack from all the emergency vehicles surrounding her house when she tried to drive down the road. Probably pretty lame compared to most stories on here. Was working pretty late, 2 a.m., on my computer when I get an alert from my security camera that detected motion. I checked it and there was a person staring into my apartment window in full view of where I was working. I closed the computer, turned off the lights and went into the bathroom for a bit. Turns out being extra paranoid when someone is staring into your apartment at 2 a.m. isn't a good combination. I checked the camera memory and the guy was there for 20 minutes, just real casual. Called the cops and the kid ran away and came back an hour later. Haven't seen him since. Well, my house was sort of out farther away from town. We had neighbors, but they were few and far between. There was a hiking trail opening across the street from our driveway, which was very long, and can't be seen from the trail. My room had a large window facing out to the driveway. Anyway, I was home alone, cleaning my room, and singing "We Are the Champions" extremely loudly, as well as playing it on my TV. Looked up, and suddenly see a man power walking up my driveway very quickly. It's obvious no one is home but me since there aren't any cars in the driveway. So I ran to the front door, which was open because it was hot AF outside, and locked it, and closed and locked my window. Turns out bro friend did not like that. I called 911 because he was still approaching my house, and I was getting scared by his demeanor, and while on the phone with the 911 operator, he started banging on my front window by the door, and then the door itself. He tried kicking in the door, and tried breaking the window. I went and hid in my mom's closet, because it locked from the inside only, with a knife until the cops showed up. By the time they showed up he was gone, and there were hand and shoes prints all over the door and front window, and some handprints on my bedroom window. They found him about an hour later walking up and down my street. He told them that he heard my pretty singing voice and just wanted to say hi. He was also drunk, but admitted to being sober at the time of the incident and started drinking after I rejected him. He also told them that he planned to come in and have some fun with me after he found that I was home alone. And that he was waiting for nighttime to come back. So yeah. Had a lot of nightmares about that one. TLDR, man tried to break in because he heard me singing, couldn't get in, gave up, then went and got drunk. Police found and arrested him an hour later. Then he admitted to them that he wanted to rape me.